welcome to the Coffee and Scotch Esports show. I'm your host, Bowman Shota, and today we're going to have three guests, which you guys will be seeing a rotating image of in the other side of the screen, because we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Skype. But today we're going to be talking about the Dota scene as far as building a team and the statistics behind player analysis and all that stuff. Got a lot of great guests with us today, and we're going to start off with Kyle. If you want to introduce yourself first.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Kyle. I'm just gonna go with Kyle Freedman because I really don't like my gamer tag that much. I'm captain in the offlaner for Complexity Dota, also known as the best Dota team that ever was or will be. Yeah.
Nice. Welcome to the show, Kyle. Next up, we have Colin. Actually, Colin, go ahead if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Colin. Go by Bonsai online, which, whatever. Either way, I'll respond to both. So, yeah, right now I'm just doing some management work for Reason Gaming, which we don't have a Dota team right now, but that'll change eventually. And, yeah, I also admin for Faceit on the side. That's it.
Nice. And last but not least, we have Andrew. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Andrew.
All right, I'm Andrew. I go by Andy the Statsman, really creative title, of course. And I'm a freelance stats person. So I've done work for the Major Hub as well as Team Shazam, which is a North American Dota team.
Nice, nice. Well, welcome all of you to the show. We're doing this live, which is a little bit different than what we normally do. But I felt with having multiple guests on, live would be an interesting interaction, especially with the Twitch chat. We can get some questions and feedback towards the end from them. But to kind of set the stage for today's topic, I'm going to kind of reference a Thorin, who I know isn't that big into the Dota scene. I know he watches it on the side, but he made a video about actually learning your actual skill level. Because obviously every player has peaks, and those are the outliers essentially, to where all of a sudden they have an extreme play. You see the highlight clips, you see all the excitement and everything around that. Which is great, but that may not necessarily be their actual skill level. It might be slightly below that, where they're a little more consistent. And we're going to talk today about how we analyze that in an actual player in the Dota scene. We're going to get each of your opinions on that. But to first start off with a little bit basics for people who may not be familiar with the Dota scene. Like, how does even a person want to go pro in the Dota scene? And I guess we'll start with Kyle, if you want to answer that first.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of reasons. Some people genuinely like playing the game. Some people just love our community and the bunch of great, well-mannered people that they are. Some people see, I guess, the money. Some just want to be the best at something. I don't know. My motivation is kind of like a mix of everything, I suppose. But at the end of the day, it's just, I see Dota 2 as the game with the highest stakes, which also means the highest competition. And I don't think that there's a greater achievement in all of esports other than like winning TI. So if you would be the player that won more TIs than anybody else, I would argue that that person's like, I don't know, fucking LeBron, Kobe, Brady. Like, you're just the fucking man. So
especially with the prize pool nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you also get to be a millionaire to boot, so solid.
Now, Andy, I want to ask you, like, when you're analyzing the statistics of up-and-coming players, like, what do you look at as far as a new player coming up in the scene?
Well, obviously you have to look at it holistically because, first of all, there are 5 different roles, and within those roles there are a lot of different play styles. Like some teams, for example, put a lot of emphasis on their mid player having a lot of success, whereas other teams put more towards the off lane, make sure that they don't completely sack their 3 position. So it's relatively difficult to look purely statistically at it, but I think the most important things to look at are obviously KDA, which just a general indication of how people are doing in the game. There's net worth percentage, which gives you an idea of what they're doing in their team, so you can look at the other stats with a bit more knowledge. And then one of my favorites is kill participation, which is just kills plus assists over the number of total kills that your team has. So you have an idea of how active that player is. But really, it's hard to look purely statistically at how players play because there are just so many factors in Dota.
Yeah, no, definitely. Colin, what's your take on how an up-and-coming player could definitely be at least recognized in the pro scene, and possibly picked up?
I mean, for a while there, it was North American Elite League and like the IXDL, which are these basically all the best players play in them to kind of have a higher level of competition because matchmaking isn't the greatest at higher level MMRs. I mean, I know that like Miracle and Arteezy, who are some of the higher MMR players, have like 45-minute wait times when they're queuing it, off peak hours, and it's just awful. So they'll play in North American Elite League, which is where Arteezy and Sumail, who are two of the better known mids in the scene, came from, where everyone saw them and they're like, wow, these kids are good. And that's sort of been limited now because those leagues are just not active anymore. So now it's the high MMR, which is where we found Miracle, and everyone's like, whoa, this dude's got like 8K MMR, and he's the first one to ever get to that point. So, MMR it's not the greatest stat, but it does show that you are winning games. MMR is like having a high win percentage for the most part. And having that just, if you're winning games, you are good. It's relatively simple to translate. And then I know Swindles came through with Han, and I think we could talk about that later, about the success of Han players in Dota, because very, very similar games, and just transitioning it's difficult, but it's easier than just trying to be like, hey guys, I want to be a professional Dota 2 player. And, trying to grind up MMR and trying to, get to that point.
Yeah. Now, to jump back to you, Kyle, to kind of elaborate on this a little bit, I saw the video that they did for TI5, where you talked about you went through like 43 or 49 different players as you were building your team for complexity. As you were doing that, what goes through your head when you're diagnosing a player as far as whether or not they're going to be a good fit for your team?
All right, well, do you want to monologue for a bit? Because this would be kind of extensive.
There's no time limit on this show, so go ahead.
Oh, God, that's terrible news. This is going forever. I would say the big three for me are really simple. It's just attitude, dedication, and talent. That's really all I think that you need. So the main issue with a lot of people was the amount of time that they could dedicate to the game and how seriously they were willing to take it. If you're gonna try and be a pro Dota player, you cannot have any. Theoretically, you can't have a job. You can't be in school. You really shouldn't have a girlfriend that you care about. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about your girlfriend. I'm just saying that if you're in a relationship that really matters to you, then you would have a very hard time putting Dota above that, and that's kind of what's necessary. The same way, Steph Curry's his wife will be at the games, but when he goes back to the hotel, he's by himself. He's got a wife and kids, and he's still not gonna spend time with them because he's focused on trying to win with his team.
Yeah.
The other was just there's just a lot of toxic players who didn't have what I would consider the championship mentality, which is based around the concept of extreme ownership, which I learned recently from this really good book, how to phrase it properly, where if you die 7 times, you shouldn't be talking about the 2 you could have fixed. You should be thinking about it from the perspective of, I fucked up 7 times, how could I have improved in each and every one of these situations? So even if your teammate misses a stun and you were a perfect player, you would have recognized that, hesitated, and then saved yours, as an example. So even when your teammates fuck up, or you have improper rotations, or you're outmatched, or you get unlucky, it's all about, okay, well, how could I have done better? And it's very difficult to find players, especially from a pub scene, or who have really high MMR, who just don't understand the concept of team first Dota, which a lot of times just means that the decision that's best for you might not necessarily be what's best for the team, and how to properly optimize not only rotations and item builds and skill builds and timings for yourself, but also to fit yourself into the team properly. So pretty much of all the people we picked up, everyone was pretty fucking bad, first of all, so that was a problem. Second, all the really good players just turned us down, because we were really bad. Thus, had a very difficult time finding anyone to fill these positions. And then the guys that were trying out were just like, I don't know how to explain it. They just didn't get it. It's sort of like, if you look, I'm sure that you guys all have English as your first language, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
The only real way I could describe it is like if you look at a well-written paragraph and you just sort of, you're like, wow, like from your favorite author, you're like, wow, this is like really fucking good. And it makes sense because it's got, you don't know what it's got, but you just see that it's good. And you're like, that was pleasant to read. Dota is kind of similar in a sense that it's difficult to teach how to recognize good Dota. You either do or you don't. And there are some players that were good, talented, but they just did not have the Dota IQ to be worth investing in. And you can just sort of see that they're not learning from their mistakes or their losses because they just don't grasp what's gone wrong that led to this loss. So for the most part, it was really just, attitude, dedication, talent. If you don't have those three things, you will not succeed. And you need to be exemplary at all of them because you're not competing against thousands of people. You're competing against millions of people. And you just can't be that ass. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know.
Yeah.
To jump in real quick, a lot of it is it's same if you look at real sports where you take a player like Arteezy who looks fucking incredible. I think the team in role he was the best at was just TI4EG, and it's not that he's a worse player now on Secret. He's actually like much better, but because of the role he's playing on the team and how uncomfortable they currently are with just roles and how to optimize one another's talents, he looks bad by comparison to when he was on a winning team. And the point I'll just make till I'm blue in the face is that Dota is very much a team game, and that is not only, it's a little unfair, but mostly just impossible to truly gauge how good someone is at the game of Dota unless you were literally living with said team, coaching them through like a month or 2 months of games. Then you'll actually know, okay, who's valuable, who's stimulating discussion, who's giving proper information in games, who's making the right decisions. Because if your teammate fucks this up, now your optimal move is probably to do something else. Because I don't know how else to. I'm phrasing this wrong, but you can't judge someone that's doing badly on a team and really know whether or not they're doing well. Like if you look at Team Liquid, now they're winning, so obviously now all of their players are top 3 on every position. Secret's losing, so obviously they're all falling off, when it's really just not that simple. The game of Dota is very hard, and there are a lot of very good teams nowadays, and just because a team wins 2 out of 3 wouldn't mean they would win 51 out of 100.
All right. Well, thank you, all three of you, for being on the show. All of you watching on Twitch, thank you very much for tuning in. And those of you that catch the VOD on Tuesday, like, share, and favorite this as you all see fit, and everyone have a wonderful day.